Actually, there are some times when I feel sorry for people who are neurotypicals. So I guess we could call this, I don't know. NT is short for neurotypical, so we could call it, what, NT disorder, maybe? Just putting out a suggestion there. But number one reason is because people with neurotypical syndrome, I'm being a little bit sarcastic here, they make wrong choices because they are focused primarily on peer pressure. Now, obviously, I think it goes without saying that not every person who is neurotypical is succumbing to immense pressure from their peers, but that's part of being neurotypical. That's not to say that those of us with Asperger syndrome don't also have peer pressure, but it's something that is not quite as intense in the sense that it compels us or propels us into the wrong direction. Even though we want to be with peers, even though we would love to have a circle of friends, that's just not available to us. So consequently, we just can't. We can't be subjected to the same intense peer pressure that neurotypicals are exposed to. Number two is wrong life partner. I got it. Yeah, this could happen to just about anybody, but one of the challenges facing people with neurotypical syndrome is that they often get hitched, make a lifetime commitment to somebody who just isn't a good fit because, well, they've got more, what would you call this? They have more access to more people, to more prospects. Whereas people with Asperger syndrome, not so much. I mean, there are a few people who will pay us attention. Typically, those people tend to be either empaths, which is usually a good thing, or they could be manipulating narcissists, which is almost always a disaster. Not always, but nearly always a disaster. The third reason I kind of feel sorry for people with NT syndrome, NT disorder, is because it seems that they lack the power of patience. How so? Well, here's an analogy that I've used probably a million times, or maybe just an example. But try driving in a major city during rush hour. And notice how all the other motorists behave. They have no patience whatsoever. There may be a few exceptions. I mean, you can almost pick out the empaths. Those are the people who seem to be oblivious to all the rushing in the rush hour, but, they've got this problem with patience. They have this inner urgency to get ahead in life, to climb the social hierarchy, and consequently, it seems like people with NT syndrome, NT disorder, are clamoring over each other at each other's expense. Now, what I would like to say to all of these people, and we're talking about what, 99% of the world's population? I'd like to say just chill out. But first of all, they're not listening to me, and second, even if they could hear me, they probably wouldn't take my advice. Number four is dependence for approval and validation. Now, this goes beyond mere peer pressure. There is this compulsion to be accepted by the group and by society as a whole, not necessarily just the small group, but society as a whole. We need to have their approval. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with people with Asperger syndrome seeking to be validated. In fact, I think it's a good thing. But like every good thing, you can have too much of a good thing, and it can begin to steer your life. It directs your life. Well, why don't Aspies have that? I think inside they do have it, but it's just not available to them because people with Asperger syndrome almost universally get pushed outside the crowd. You're either not welcome in the first place, or if you do get in, you get pushed out. Or if you do get in and don't get pushed out, everybody gets up and leaves you alone. So that is one of the problems that people with NT syndrome seem to have. Number five is what I would call displaced life joys. As they go through this process of social climbing up the social hierarchy, that often translates into two things. It's either power, personal power, or money. Now, years ago, I was at a wedding. And there were some people there who were from out of the country, and there was one elderly gentleman from South Africa. And he apparently was somewhat of a tycoon in that he had built a chain of grocery stores. And here he was, almost totally deaf, very difficult for him to hear what I had to say in the conversation. And he was very elderly. But one of the things I picked up on him that stuck with me and will stick with me forever is he said something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect, what was the point? Why did I do that? Why did I go through life trying to build this financial empire, which apparently he did very well, but he missed all of life's true joys? Well, I think a lot of that comes out, again, as we talked earlier, about peer pressure and about that dependence, that craving for approval and for acceptance. So he went after that. He chased the wrong thing. And now here he is, probably pushing 90 years old, maybe past 90. And you don't get a second chance. I mean, you don't. Okay, you can't say, okay, I blew it. Let's go back to when I was 18 or 20 or wherever and start over and do it right this time. That's not going to happen. That's very sad. That's very tragic. So if you know somebody who has neurotypical disorder, you might want to have a little bit of compassion for them. Number 6 is you really don't know who your true friends are, and you don't know who your enemies are. Friends and foes, you can't tell them apart, because in that process of social climbing up the social hierarchy, everybody pretends to be everybody else's friend when it is to their benefit. If it's not to their benefit, maybe not. Maybe they're very obvious that they are enemies. But the problem is, unless somebody is making it so very obvious that they're not your true friend, then you don't know who your friends are and who's just using you. That's one of the problems, I would say, with being very wealthy. How do you know who likes you and who just likes your money? And they see you as a gateway to your money. Now, by the way, let me say that I've got no problem with having money. If you're a billionaire, hey, I'm happy for you. And by the way, don't give it away unless it's for a good cause. You just be a good steward of it. I just want to make that clear. I'm not taking a position of saying there's something morally evil about having wealth, but some people don't understand that when they get in that position of either wealth or power or social acceptance, that they think they are surrounded by friends, but then they realize that, I can't tell. Some of these people are true friends and some of them are fakes, and they'll act the same. They behave the same. There's little tricks maybe to sort out the difference. And by the way, on my other channel, where I talk about narcissism, I actually point out some of those things. You might want to visit that channel sometime. But they confuse manipulation with admiration. I've had narcissists in my life. Okay, I've had a few that were manipulating me, and I thought these people really liked me. It's kind of like the mouse, playing with the cat, rather, playing with the mouse, or the mouse playing with the cat. But, the mouse might think, oh, the cat likes me. He wants to play with me. He's my friend. He's my buddy. Actually, he's not so much playing with you as you are just an object. And he is toying with you. So you are not his playmate. You are his toy. And he will continue to play with you until you die, and then he will discard you. That's what people do. And the challenge faced by neurotypicals is, how do you know? Is this a cat in? Okay, this is kind of a stretch, but is it a cat in a mouse? How do you say that? Mouse clothing? Yeah, okay, that's a stretch, but you get the point. So you just don't know. You don't understand, nor can you, unless you're extremely sensitive and paying very close attention, who is your true friend and who is just playing you for their personal advantage. Here's something to close out with. Oscar Wilde, I took note of this, but Oscar Wilde said this, and it's a quote: "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. There is nothing inherently wrong with appreciating who you are. In fact, it's very healthy. I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm not talking about narcissism, but I'm just talking about appreciating the talents and the abilities that nature has endowed you with which you have been endowed. So let's phrase it this way. Are you ready? Now think about this. If someone treated you the way you treat yourself, how would you respond? Do you see those two rectangles on the screen? Well, if you like this conversation, we got more. So if you want to keep on talking, just click one of those rectangles and we will keep the conversation going.